Hey, I'm just waiting to make sure it's streaming with my simulcast. There's always like this little bit of a lag, and I always want to make sure. Here we go. So it's September 21st. So I'm going to read chapter 18 to you. As you might remember, Helena and Valamir had a major problem because he got drunk and just a real jerk. And but not to the point of it being finished, basically. So his way of absolving himself is to he is an Ostrogoth, so there's barbarian stuff going on here. So he marks himself with a rune, but she pleads for him to stop because she doesn't want him to hurt himself. So they're headed back from this thing. No one waited for Helena. Chapter 18. So they're headed back. They were by the stream. This moment. He feels badly. No one waited for Helena and Valamir. She was thankful for this small mercy, not wanting to see Thudamir's teasing face, nor Attila's brooding stare. Valamir left his two buckets outside his tent. Helena's had splashed, darkening the hem of her dress. "I'll give this to Karatapan," he said, reaching for her smaller container. Her eyes followed him as he walked to the other tent, his step smooth and coiled. Drawn to him, emotion overwhelmed thought. She had lost everything. Mikhail, her grandfather, her life in Constantinople, even the routine of Kansbar's world. Her trust in Valamir had been a lifeline, slender but strong, keeping madness at bay. Last night his actions had severed the fragile cord. He soundlessly placed the bucket inside Karatapan's tent and returned to her, his footsteps not even creating a whisper on the ground. "He's asleep," he said, taking her by the hand. He led her inside, his gentle touch opening her heart to him. She wondered if she were a total fool. Confined in the tent, her fear returned. He stoked the fire, then contemplated her with warm eyes. She longed for the reassurance of his protective arms, but remained terrified by the memory of his weight grinding down on her and his hands snatching at her clothes. She felt like a cornered bird with a broken wing, seeing its fate in a fox's glistening teeth. As her heart raced, something within her whispered it was not normal to be so frightened by what men and women did together. The thought only made her feel more alone. Grimacing, Valamir took off his tunic, now splotched with blood. His chest was unsightly. The mutilation was significant. "I can't believe what you did to yourself," she said, assuaging her emptiness with words. He pointed to scars in his arms and shoulders. "I've had worse cuts in battle." Her hand reached for him, wanting to trace her fingers across his scars, as if her touch could eradicate the old pain. She dropped it to her side. Despite her intentions, she stepped closer to him, needing to examine the still bleeding gash across his chest. His muscles were defined under finely textured skin, his scent spicy. In her heart, she understood that he had captured her anew, irrevocably, like a rabbit in a snare. She kept her voice evenly pitched, trying to hide her confusion. "Valamir, you need bandaging. Can Karatapan help?" He wrinkled his nose. "His poultices smell rotten. Worse, he'll insist I change the wrappings every day. I'm going to wake him. He'll never forgive me if I didn't." He held her by the arm. "I'll come with you. I don't like you going out alone." "It's only a few steps away. I'll be fine." His face was drawn and pale from the loss of blood. "Go, then," he said, waving her away. In her rush, she ran into Thudamir's arms just outside the door. "Helena, you've seen the light at last," he said. "Let go of me," she said, pulling away. Behind her, Valamir's voice rippled with anger. "Bevian!" Bevian's eyes grew wide, looking at the blood on his brother's chest. "She knifed you!" He raised his arm to strike her face. "You bitch!" Valamir grabbed him. "You ass! She had nothing to do with this. Go, Helena, get Karatapan. He may as well join the party." Not needing Helena's summons, Kratapan came as fast as he could hobble. "What have you done to yourself?" Valamir looked away. The servant glanced at Helena once and then turned back to Valamir. His lips pursed. "There's a story here, but not a good one." Seeing him, Helena wanted to cry. He was the remaining glue that held together her fragile universe. "He needs something to bind it," she said. His face sour with disapproval, Kratapan returned to his tent. He reappeared shortly, carrying various containers. Helena ran to him, offering to help. He only shook his head, thin-lipped with anger. He was brusque, his eyes cold fire. "Sit, Valamir." "Shouldn't we go outside?" Helena asked. "The light's no good there. It's better in the sunlight." He bent over Valamir, muttering, "You're a damn fool." Then he extracted powders from the small leather bags, measuring them carefully before combining them in a small leather bowl. He continued to scold. "Any cut can fester." Valamir waited, not bothering to hide his discomfort. Theodemir observed with mocking amusement, until Kratapan glowered to shoo him away. He shrugged but did not leave, intent on watching his brother's predicament. As she watched Kratapan tend to his charge, Helena understood that Valamir had deflected her just anger with a self-inflicted wound. She seized silently, realizing that his act was not a simple barbaric ritual, but the product of an intelligent, manipulative mind. Kratapan poured a bitter-smelling liquid on a clean cloth and abruptly ordered Valamir to lie down. As he cleaned the injury, the Goth's eyes widened, his only sign of pain. Thinking it served him right, Helena almost smiled. Engrossed by his brother's ordeal, Theodemir ignored her. Kratapan worked with quick expertise, covering the laceration with a poultice, wrapping it around with an intricate bandage woven over Valamir's shoulder and back. Kratapan glanced at Helena quizzically and shook his head. "Sometimes, Valamir, it's better to trust that you will be forgiven, instead of forcing another's hand. Powerful gestures have a purpose, but rarely." His fate taught, he did not wait for a response. As he limped back to his quarters, his progress was slow. Without a word, Helena withdrew to Valamir's tent. Theodemir's voice was clear, easily piercing the leather walls. "By the gods, Valamir, I saw what you drew. Isn't it the rune of remembrance? And why? Because you pleased at least 3 women in one night? You did nothing wrong. When Maud told me of your strength, I was proud to be your brother. You wouldn't understand, Bevian. The women weren't important. They answered a need. What matters is I broke my word. Such a betrayal calls for blood." "That's nonsense, Valamir. You treat Helena with the same respect as your brothers of Mithras. She's only a woman. You treat her well enough. And if once in a while you cause her to hate you, too bad. Women learn to accept us as we are. They have no choice." He paused and added, "How did you break your word, Valamir?" "Leave it alone, Bevian. You're like a dog with a bone, always gnawing to find the marrow. When you fall in love someday, you'll understand." "I fall in love every night, Valamir, usually twice." "Is that why you look so tired, little brother? Maybe you're not quite up to it. You'd better check on Maud. She might be missing me." Helena remembered the tall, Gothic woman from the previous night and how she looked at Valamir. A fire erupted within her, reminding her of the words that had come unbidden to her lips as she cursed Grelia. "No," she whispered, denying the impulse. With fierce concentration, she drew the rune of light. The sensation passed, but the picture of Valamir and Maud, naked and intertwined, assaulted her, devastating her with jealousy. She paced the tent, needing to break free. She was unsure of what hurt the most, last night's attack, and the fact that he had found solace elsewhere. Shortly, Valamir joined her, and she glared at him. "You went with Maud." "I was with her when I woke up." Helena stood next to him, looking into his eyes. She clenched her left fist, ready to strike. He touched her arm, but she slapped his hand away. "Attila and Theodemir had a plan, a simple one. You were to get drunk, leaving me exposed. And you obliged them. Did you know that Attila counted how many cups you drank? That he offered me his protection last night? 'Stay with me. Stay with my women,' he said again and again. And that your brother arranged for Maud, another woman, to come and take you from me, leaving me alone with Attila?" His hands rested on her shoulders, but she did not shrug them off. What did you do then, Helena?" She smiled grimly. I threatened them with my dagger, and they went away. You did well, better than I, Helena. I can't undo last night. I wish I could. He stroked her face, lingering in her hair. His hand stroked her face, lingering in her hair. If I'd stayed, you couldn't have forgiven me. I've been no better than Cansbar. Her face crumpled. He put her arms around her and leaned down to her lips. All I want is you, Helena. I did not know you last night. You were someone else, and I was afraid, she whispered, lost in the very blue of his eyes. He winced. I usually hold my drink better. Maybe they drugged it. I've heard of such things. His brow furrowed. It tasted all right. A little bitter, perhaps. Attila wouldn't stoop so low. Maybe, but he seems like a man used to getting his way. Well, he won't be having you. His eyes searched her, and then his lips pressed hers gently in a kiss. Will you forgive me? He whispered. Just this once, Valamir. Will you keep me company while I sleep? I'll stay with you. She lay beside him, warmed by his body. His hands stroked her hair until he fell into a deep slumber. She thought of the other women touching him, but did not care. He was her husband. For better or worse, she intended to keep him. So that's chapter 18. So at some point, we'll see where we go with this. Because, it'd be great if you look how much we've gotten. We got really far. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to read the whole thing or not. But for sure, you can check it out. Get it on Kindle. Tell friends. If you know any movie producers, to let them know. You never know. Anyhow, have a great night, a good weekend, a good week, not weekend. We had a beautiful, sort of crisp fall, pre-fall, tomorrow's fall. And enjoy the weather. Get outside. And just enjoy life. Pandemic is getting hopefully better. Be responsible, but you can be outside, and I think it's really healthy. Take care. Bye.